voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. It has been stormed by tacky tourists and even worse tour guides, so that it's been shut down to the public and closely controlled. St. Louis number 2 sits directly behind St. Louis number 3. And then, St. 1, I'm sorry. And then as time goes on, all the way from Claiborne Avenue, which is way into the city, all the way out here is the next cemetery, St. Louis number 3. This is a private vault. And all of these vaults are privately deeded pieces of property. The one thing I want to clarify, and believe me, I thought the same thing you think until I became a tour guide in 1999. At that point, I got the shock of my life. These tombs are not here because we're below sea level. It's not true. It does suit our purpose, but these tombs are duplicates of the tombs of Père Lachaise out in Paris. Okay? The most visited cemetery in the world is Père Lachaise in Paris. We are French. While it suits us, it is our heritage, and that is why it's done. Do you all know who the most visited grave in Père Lachaise is?
Marie Antoinette.
Marie, don't you wish it was that classy? It's Jim Morrison of the Doors. The most visited cemetery. The second most visited tomb in the world. Marie Laveau, our voodoo queen. So, this is just one of our basic cemeteries, but one of the older ones. Like I said, all these tombs are privately deeded pieces of property. So when yellow fever comes into the city, and we don't know what causes it until 1900 with Walter Reed and the Panama Canal. When the yellow fever is in the city, red water goes in the apothecary jars in front of the pharmacia. And in those jars are the colors of the diseases of the day. Each disease had a different color. We didn't want to panic everybody and put yellow fever in the city on the headlines of the newspapers. The only way you knew is to walk by that pharmacy. And if the water in that jar was red, you knew it was time to get the heck out of Dodge. Most of us got out that could, but the ones that couldn't stayed inside. We thought that the disease was in the miasma, so the swamp gas that floats over all the bodies of water that surround the city. They used to do a couple of really crazy things to get rid of it. One of them was they lit tar fires around the city. Well, that didn't do much good. So then they decided they're going to scare it away, and they're going to shoot cannons off. I think that's the beginning of alcoholism in New Orleans. Can you imagine? Here it is, the sun's going down, you cook and you go, kaboom! Oh my God, I'm going along, okay. Kaboom! About 3 or 4 of those, I'd be, honey, I need a drink. Somebody bring me a drink. And I think that's where cocktail hour begins. In any case, that did no good. The only thing that worked was that they stayed inside with their windows and their doors shut. Now, mind you, it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity, so it's nothing nice. The only thing you see on the street is the death wagon. Now, I like to remind people about the movie Oliver. Remember the movie Oliver? And at the end, when Oliver is brought home to his adoptive father, he wakes up in the morning, and in the area around the front of his house, all of these little carts come walking up. All these different people selling different things. It was like that in New Orleans when I was a little girl. We had the watermelon man, we had the knife sharpening man, and the rag man, the banana man, the produce man. They all came in carts, even when I was a little girl. And I'm not really that old. I'm sorry?
Pulled by horses?
Pulled by horses or mules. Yes, usually mules. And they'd ride them down the street. Rag man! Rag man! Get your rags here, rag man! We just lost a gentleman named Mr. Okra who took that on in a truck and kept it going for a long time. His granddaughter's doing it now. So the wagons on the street are not unusual, and what you see on the street during yellow fever is the death wagon. It's driven by a slave we know to be immune. If you're of African descent, you can have one gene that gives you immunity to yellow fever. If you have 2 of these genes, you can have sickle cell anemia, so it's a double-edged sword. Understand, we are a mismatched group of people. We have no idea what's going on here. The only people able to live and continue in this element are the Africans. The Africans teach us to cook on a slow fire. The Africans bring us okra. The word gumbo is the African word for okra, which is kingumbo, okay? Point being, we needed each other. Slaves needed us for their money. We needed them for their knowledge. So the idea that this was a very contentious situation is not true. In Louisiana, in New Orleans, slaves were free on Sunday. And because they were free on Sunday, they were allowed to work out, as it was called. If they earned enough money when they worked out, they could approach their master. They'd say, sir, I have this much money. You paid this much for me, and I've got this. I'm old now, I can't do what I used to do, and I'm worth this much. An arbitrator will come in and say, yeah, but he did a lot for you. You're worth this much. Once the value is established, if that slave has that money, he gives it to his master, and he is free. Only in the city of New Orleans did that exist. Once he has bought his freedom, what do you think he does? He buys slaves. It was the way of the world, folks, pure and simple. Black and white owned slaves, and black and white were slaves. We had many white people who were designated from the African slaves as being called indentured servants. But it was the same basis. They came over here on a contract to make enough money to bring their families back. So here you are, you got yellow fever. Aunt Martha's come to visit, she's in the guest room, and the death wagon's riding up and down the street. Lo and behold, Aunt Martha succumbs to yellow fever. We're heartbroken, destroyed. But you gotta do something. And she's given off fumes, you understand, for up to a year after her death, so we're getting her right out of the house, and we will sit Martha on the side of the house waiting for the death wagon. He'll come along, bring out your dead, bring out your dead. He picks Martha up, he puts her in the back of the wagon, and off he goes. Mind you, they make arrangements and they have a funeral. They come to this cemetery, to the family vault. Now this is what I call a 2-bedroom condo with some timeshare properties, okay? Martha's gonna go in the top part of the vault. After she's interred, a sexton will stand here. He will concrete the front of the vault, lay the bricks, and he will stand here and wait till it dries. Once it has dried, he signs it, and the interment plaque goes on. We're not doing all that. When we have a funeral, we have a party, and that's where we're all going. We party when you die, we dance at funerals, and we don't trust too many people who don't do this. Who remembers? One day Martha died. They're looking through Martha's papers. Somebody says, who's Martha? I was looking through her papers. Who's Martha? I don't know who Martha is. It's trash, throw it away. In that box was a deed to this tomb, and that's why it looks the way it does today, because they've lost ownership. They don't know they own it, okay? It's a privately deeded piece of property. So Martha's here, we've gone to a party. When it's all over, life goes back to normal. A couple of years pass, and Martha's sister Lulu and her nephew, Lulu, their last. Well, now what are we gonna do? Because we got Martha up here, and an empty vault down here. And I said a couple of years, couldn't be a couple of years, 1 year. We believe that you cannot disinter a person until a year and 1 day has passed since they were placed in the grave. The reason is that we believe that yellow fever comes out of your body in fumes for up to 1 solid year after your death. Creole people are never rude. We would never disinter you on the anniversary of your death. So therefore we wait a year and 1 day. Martha hadn't been here a year and 1 day. So what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna open this bottom one, and her sister will be placed here. But we still got the nephew. What are we going to do with him? You look back there against the wall, you'll see the small little rectangular openings. Those are called the wall vaults, or the ovens. They are for rent or for sale. We're going to rent one of those for a year and a day, and that's where our nephew's going to stay. After a year and a day has passed, we're going to open that vault, break the brick. People say, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. Well, I don't know what my grandmother and grandfather paid for their plot that they had, but when I go, all I have to do is go to the cemetery and say, hi, I'm Barbara Robichaux, I'm here, and they put me in the Robichaux plot. All I have to pay for is whatever is the cost of, addressing my body. But the physical place where I'm going to be has been there for probably close to 100 years, all right? And what people don't understand about our cemeteries is that we honor the dead on All Saints' Day and every holiday. Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, Christmas. We're out here, Veterans Day, you name it. We're out here. We celebrate All Saints' Day, which is November the 1st, same as a Day of the Dead from the Spanish. And we come out on the weekend before Halloween and we clean the tombs. We make sure that the flowers are out and beautiful, everything's ready to go. In the old days, you were judged as a family by the way you maintained your family tomb.
What traditionally happens on All Saints' Day is people come out and take care of the graves of their ancestors. We think about our ancestors and we think about how much we love them, and there are days that we come on Mother's Day, we come on Father's Day, we come on a birthday, but this is when sort of the whole community comes at one time to be able to celebrate the dead and to celebrate those ancestors that came before us.
And we had big picnics out here on All Saints' Day. How many of you have cast iron patio furniture? It's cemetery furniture, guys. It is. That furniture started here, and there'd be a cast iron bench for the matriarch of the family to sit and entertain her friends on All Saints' Day. It was a big, huge party. So any of y'all have that cast iron furniture? It is our first cemetery furniture. Go home and enjoy. You're not in the cemetery, it's okay. Down here, one of the most famous tombs is Belloc's tomb. Does anybody know who Belloc is? Belloc was the man, the only man, allowed to photograph the women of Storyville. Storyville was our somewhat legal area of prostitution. We had a mayor who didn't like prostitution, so he cordons off an area and tells the girls they cannot leave this area. And because we loved him so much, they named it Storyville right after him. It began in 1897. The great houses were held by some of the topmost people in the city of New Orleans. Very, very well-known people. We had the mayor of Storyville and the queen of Storyville, depending upon the size of their houses. There was a blue book that actually told you the nationality and ethnicities of the girls in the house. Some may be all French, some may be all Spanish, some may be African, some may be pure white. It was all in the book. It told you what liquors were available, everything. It's called the Blue Book, and they have little reproductions of it out there today. So Belloc's tomb is down there. You